This is becoming extremely serious for us. I don't want you to, you can come with me. Let's have a look at it just briefly. Isaiah 18. It's not a very well translated chapter. Brother Thomas, and unfortunately I don't have the time to leave it up here for you to get it down, but Brother Thomas retranslates this. He says it's the worst translated couple of verses in the book of Isaiah. Isaiah 18 verse 1. Woe to the land shadowing with wings, which is beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. Brother Thomas says, a land of whizzing wings, supported by Gesenius, extending from beyond the rivers of Cush, which is Iraq to Aden, which sendeth by sea whirring things, even upon vessels of fleetness on the surface of the waters. So using Gesenius as his translation, he points out, when he first wrote about it, he says it will take place when Russia is in Syria, controlling Damascus, and there will be an attack. Gesenius says from the air. He says errant nonsense, because he lived in sailing ship days. He wouldn't have had a clue about that. And then it goes on to talk about these whirring things in ships of fleetness. And he thought, goodness me, sailing ships. I know, paddle wheel steamers. That's what he talked about. But you look at it. Today it fits. And what's going on? America says we're going to boycott Iran. Came in last Monday. Iran has promised, if that's the case, we'll close the Straits of Bab-el-Mandeb and the Straits of Hormuz, these two waterways, out of which comes 40% of all the world's oil tankers, 25% of the world's oil out of that area. Huge quantities come out of here. 25% of it goes through to Europe. The remaining 50% to Asia, like Australia. So what happened? That boycott went on deck, and straight away America's acting. Sending ships in there, aerial ships, aircraft carriers, into the Persian Gulf to try and make sure that the Iranians don't close it. But Iran has a plan. Now, that's an old picture, but it looks like a sea mine. They've got much more modern ones than that. They have 6,000 sea mines. The aim? To close the Persian Gulf. And they've given mines to the Yemen, to the Houthi rebels in Yemen. And they are already putting the mines in the sea, according to the newspapers. So what's going to happen? Well, let's have a look at it. Trump says, I'm going to boycott Iran. Did so a week ago. What's Iran saying it's going to do? We're going to close those two waterways. No big surprise for us, brethren and sisters, because that's what Dr. Thomas wrote in the old Heralds, rewrote it in Elpis Israel, rewrote it in Exposition of Daniel, rewrote it in Eureka. There will be a major conflict in the Persian Gulf and the Red Sea, naval conflicts, with an endeavour by Tarshish to keep that waterway open. That must have been crazy in his day. What came out of the Persian Gulf in that day? The only thing I can think of was camels, selling them to zoos and such like. All right? But today, goodness me, we can understand why. Dr. Thomas knew nothing about it, but he was honest to the word. So now what's going on? Now these oil pipelines are critical. They go from Kuwait, Iraq, Iran, into the area of the Mediterranean. And now there's over 30 Russian ships off that coast there. Can close them in a moment. Close it off in a moment. So Europe gets 25% of its oil that way. Oil comes out from here to Europe. Can be cut off in a minute. And last week, well, that could be cut off when Russia's ready, but last week, Russia started putting S-300 missiles into Libya. They don't fully control all of Libya, but if any oil tanker wants to get out, they can make sure they can sink it. Out of Libya at the moment comes 800,000 barrels a day, and it could jump to 2.5 million, but not if Russia has the say. Can switch it off. And then, NATO is very afraid. Headlines in Britain, World War III, as NATO sends 50,000 of its 53,000 soldiers against Russia. Why? They're rushing them up to Norway. Britain is sending troops to Norway. Headlines in Europe coming up saying that. Why? Well, Norway's the last source of oil for Europe if the others get cut off. The last source of oil. And so you see, it controls half of the North Sea. And out of that North Sea oil comes into Europe. All of those could be cut off by Russia in a blink. Winter's coming. Oh yes, Russia can cut off the gas. As well as that, if they don't get the oil, diesel trucks aren't going to come into their Coles or their Woolworths with food. What's Europe going to do? They're going to beg Russia, say, Russia, please help us. Russia will say, yeah, come here. Become one of my toes. Become one of my toes in my image. That's all I want you to be. One of the 10 toes. We don't know if it's going to happen. But my goodness, everything is matching. And it's supported by the scriptures. Exactly when it happens, we don't know. But it looks like it could easily happen this winter. Keep that in mind. So you see, here we are. UK sends commanders to Norway to curb the Russian activity. Sending up there, they reckon they'll have up there in the end 40,000 troops. And so here's what Brother Thomas wrote. The merchants of Tarshish and the young lions will take maritime possession of the Gulf of Persia and the Red Sea to Suez. He wrote extensively of it. We won't look at it. But there it is from exposition of Daniel. The Tarshish powers will endeavour to command the entrances of the Persian Gulf, the shores of the Red Sea, the Straits of Bab-el-Mandeb, possess and control the Gulf of Persia. It's critical, he says.